You said when you learned of it, you immediately took action. You recorded the whole book and the audiobook. You read this whole passage out loud. Why didn't you take it out then when you read the audiobook?
You know, I've traveled for years. I've been involved in policy for almost 30 years. And so I've gone all across the world. I've met with world leaders.
This is like giving the left the stick to beat you with.
Well, Kristi Noem has canceled her book tour. She said it was because of bad weather. Apparently, it was raining cats and dogs. But one of the interviews she survived barely through occurred on News Nation. This one had nothing to do with poor Cricket who got shot by Governor Noem. No, this had to do with a story that apparently never happened, where then Congresswoman Noem met with the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Now, her messaging had been, as soon as I saw that was in the book, we got rid of it because the ghostwriter put it in and it slipped through the cracks. But then this happened.
You said when you learned of it, you immediately took action. You recorded the whole book and the audiobook. You read this whole passage out loud. Why didn't you take it out then when you read the audiobook?
You know, I've traveled for years. I've been involved in policy for almost 30 years. And so I've gone all across the world. I've met with world leaders.
So you didn't realize when you recorded the audiobook?
When it was brought to my attention, and I asked the publisher if they would remove the name, and they did.
So, Sarah, I'm sure. I don't know. Were you enjoying watching this, or were you having like post-traumatic stress disorder, imagining this was one of your clients going through this? Because I mean, you're confronted with the obvious logical fallacy of your talking point. It's like, what do you mean it was brought to your attention? You recorded the audio book, but she stuck to the talking point. She stuck with the messaging. I mean, are you impressed with the discipline, or are you just crying your eyes out on this one?
I have almost thrown a chair more than once about this. It's absolutely berserk. And actually, while you were playing the clip, I looked to my side. I have 3 different manuscripts from my clients that are coming out this year. I have gone through dozens of manuscripts printed for the same client for the same book. You can't blame the editor. She keeps blaming the editor. The process is just absurd at this point. It's a joke. And she's lost so much credibility. It's hurting her image and everything like that. But at the same time, you just have to think like, sure, she's being disciplined, but to what talking points? Like, where are the talking points? Where's the media prep? I could go on and on about this. I mean, you've seen my Twitter, but at the same time, this is a mess. Pull her out of the interviews, tell her to take a step back, and let RFK's brainworm story just keep going and going.
Well, the brainworm did. I mean, we had a lot of critters in the news this week, from the dead dog to the brainworm, and the worm seems to have eclipsed now Kristi Noem's story. But Akash, I'm so torn about this. It is a fascinating thing to watch unfold before our eyes, mostly because I think she has a lot of goodwill. I think a lot of political observers in this town recognize that she was a good congresswoman, and she's been a pretty good governor for South Dakota. So what to make of this? Is this a result of just an Oedipus thing? Is she flying too close to the sun, or is she handled wrongly?
I mean, ultimately, the buck stops with the candidate, right? Her name, or the lawmaker, her name is the one on the door. We just have to expect and demand better from our lawmakers and our leaders. It's absolutely ridiculous. We have so many incredible Republican governors all around this country, some of whom get the attention they deserve, some of whom don't, right? A lot of them are doing great things. They're cutting taxes, they're expanding school choice, they're advancing the conservative cause. And then you got people like this that give the rest of them a bad name. And then she tries to distract from the story and like throw Nikki Haley under the bus, and then goes on this tour and is like this media tour that's just been an absolute disaster. And then to say that she forgot or she missed it. I mean, meeting Kim Jong-un isn't the same as meeting some state lawmaker in Pierre. Like, that's a very memorable thing that you wouldn't gloss over in reading your book. And so it really is just shameful. It's embarrassing. And if this doesn't take her out of contention for some high-ranking position in the next administration, then I think it looks badly on that next administration, because it certainly should. I think no matter how great of a track record she might have as a member of Congress or as a governor, this has revealed a lot of poor qualities about her.
Yeah, I want to bring up the future in a minute, because she is still talked about as a potential running mate. But Andy, from your perspective here, I mean, this, again, it's been something that we in DC have been talking about because of just the nature of the story. Is this resonating around the country? Do people even notice this?
You know, I think it depends on who you talk to. Lefties and liberals are going to lap this up. But I was speaking to some conservatives, and the general consensus is if the left doesn't like you, they will find something to smear you with or make something up. What surprises me about Governor Kristi Noem was I want to know who advises her. Why put this in the book to begin with? This is like giving the left the stick to beat you with, and I'm surprised that she even disclosed this in a book.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, listen, I was with you. You're right. The left will come up with horrible attacks on you, but she handed this to them on a silver platter. I don't know, Sarah. I'm told that if you're talking about how you killed your dog, there's no way to get out of that story. There's no upside to it. The second you admit, and in this case in the book, kind of brag about the fact that you killed your dog, you're done. Is there a recovery from that one?
No, there's no recovery. And it's really fascinating if you look at what's been going on in Kristi Noem's image recently. She obviously did that great tour about jobs in South Dakota, and then she goes and makes these really weird influencer style dentist video. And then for whatever reason, her team decides, and I have a lot of respect for her team. I have a lot of friends on it. So I'm saying this as like a comms person, just looking at the situation. But the thing is, when that story came out, the book hadn't been released. They chose this as the excerpt they wanted to put forward.
So it's the ultimate self-inflicted wound, literally.
Exactly.
I mean, they thought this was going to play well.
It doesn't make any sense to me, and especially because how many rounds of edits do even like stories that you put up on Town Hall go through? You have to have known about it. She gave stories to the ghostwriter if she didn't add them herself. And this is going to kill her chances with the white suburban woman vote, which we already kind of struggle with as Republicans. But
yeah. All right. Let me just throw it out there. I'm stealing this from the guys over at the Ruthless podcast. All right. Because I thought they made kind of a witty observation. If you're Donald Trump, you're always thinking outside the box, and you're always thinking about what you really need and what's going to serve you best. What do you value? You value loyalty. You value someone who can do a lot of media. You value someone who will stick to the talking points, even if you have to stick to talking points and go down with a burning, sinking ship. You stay disciplined and you stay on message. From his perspective, an audience of one, could she still be in the running, Sarah?
No, I think with Donald Trump, it comes from he has a giant personality. He wants to be the one to shine here. She's getting a lot of media attention.
Yeah, but she'll make him look good. It's not like he killed his dog.
But I don't know. I just don't think it's the right choice.
Akash, what do you think? Is she? You already sort of mentioned this. Are you saying she's done with like Interior Secretary, even something like that?
I don't know, because Trump doesn't actually have the track record of hiring all the best people that he said. We saw that firsthand, the kind of people he actually hired and fired. But the fact of the matter is that she would make him look bad if he were to elevate her at this point, and Trump will not do anything or thinks he won't do anything that would make him look bad. Hiring her at this point would make him look bad. There are plenty of other good options on the table for him to pick as vice president or cabinet secretary. Some of them are debasing themselves and making themselves look bad in other ways, but this is just beyond the pale. And I think, if he should look beyond this, and I think he probably has.
Andy?
She's expended a lot of political capital to kind of manage, what she said and what she's written in her book. I think this has diminished her value as a viable vice presidential candidate. That, coupled with the fact that there are so many other people that bring a lot to the table, that the bench for VP is very deep, and Trump knows that.
I think that's a great point, especially juxtaposed against the Democrats. The Republican bench, especially if you're drawing from governors, is incredibly deep. Last question, just for Sarah, because I'm going to get shallow for a moment, Sarah. It has to do with appearance, where you mentioned white suburban women voters, and you got to appeal to them. So the cynical thought is, well, you got to have a woman running mate. I look at Kristi Noem here, and to me, based on the white suburban women that I know, that's not actually an appealing look. I mean, she looks beautiful, but I think she appeals more to men than to women, actually. If you're looking for a candidate that might appeal to your average white suburban woman, I think Elise Stefanik is a little more accessible and relatable. What do you think?
I'd even say Nikki Haley because she's beautiful without it being in your face. This kind of glow up that Kristi Noem's had over the past 10 years, it's too similar to the Kimberly Guilfoyle one, where it's the va-va-voom. And Kristi Noem needs to be taken seriously right now, so she needs to wheel it back. She's not a Fox political analyst, she's a governor. And if she wants credibility here, she needs to just think First Lady wise and just tone it down, tone it back, take off the lip fillers. Yeah.
The va-va-voom. Is that a technical phrase in your line of business? I like that.
I use a lot of weird things. Have you met me?
No, that's true. It's why we like you. All right, since you threw Nikki out there, I'm going to let the other two really quickly. Andy, Nikki Haley still have a shot after that primary process?
No, I don't think she has a shot. I think she had her moment in the sun, and I think that she doesn't have much left in the tank.
Akash?
I think she has a future outside of anything to do with Donald Trump, and I think there are other good options on the table. Doug Burgum, Katie Britt, that Trump will probably look at a different direction.
Heard. We'll leave it there. Thank you, guys. And we'll just leave it with me and my va-va-voom.